Here we are with Matty Kirsch, head of content of Ultimate Media Ventures based in Huntington Beach. How are you doing today?
Dude, Christian, what's happening? How are you guys, man? Please, how are you?
Man, I'm well, man. I really enjoyed our panel.
Hey, no, that was really, really educational. Hopefully, we can cut some parts of it into this. But for you folks at home, I felt like this was a really good panel. But the challenge was, the morning was just. I hate to say the suits, right? It was very information heavy. It was very, this, and I felt like our panel was like the first kind of breath of fresh air of. Reality. It was a reality check, like in a wonderful way, where a lot of things, sure, this is what the gamer is, and this is what eSports is, and this is what they spend on this, but it was never like community. You got to build community. Community is the number one thing ever. So it was good. Great job moderating it, by the way. You were like holding it down on the ones and twos, man.
And I appreciate that, man. Your energy, man, was second to none, bro. What's your biggest takeaway from our panel?
I gotta say, to be honest with you, I felt good about all four of us in the sense of there was shared voices, right? It was funny. We were talking about how we wanted to mix it up a little bit, but ultimately, when we got into the conversation, we realized that, oh my God, we're all on the same page, and we were just adding layers upon layers upon layers on our thoughts, and I thought that was invaluable compared to like, hey, let's disagree with each other. You just know how a natural conversation goes, but that was just like we were like Legos, man. We were like, so yeah, I thought it was great.
Absolutely. I think we covered a lot of subjects too. I think it was we went deep,
Yeah, I think so. Hey, and you know what? You have to do that for 45 minutes. That did not feel like 45 minutes.
We ran through it. Okay, let's talk about content.
Go.
You love content. You know what you're doing. Give us a little bit of your background and why you were the man that can tell us how to create great content in the space.
So I've been a writer, producer in video game space for almost 17 years. I started out as a segment producer at G4 back in the heyday. And what I did is I just worked my way up. I went from segment producer to series producer to supervising producer to executive producer, and then running content, right? And my two passions is video games. Like I was very fortunate enough to make my two passions in life, video games and making content in and around video games. And I've had just kind of a really diverse background. So G4, and then went from G4, I did this crazy animated series with Infinity Ward with Call of Duty, where we actually got to sit with a developer, and this is 2009, 2010, and actually play with their game assets to make a series, an animated series. It started with Will Arnett and Justin Theroux, and we got to play with content in a different way, right? We actually got the game to play content with, right? And then I had a couple pilots at Comedy Central that were video game based. And then eSports was 2010. I was telling you the story. I was literally driving down the street. I just delivered my Comedy Central pilot. It was Jonah's Arcade with Jonah Ray. And the way that works, the process work is it was Comedy Central, so they give us like 3 months to make this one show. And then what happens is that one show goes in front of a bunch of people to see if they want to take it, right? And that takes about a month and a half, 2 months, right? So you got nothing to do, right? So I'm bored one day. I'm driving down the street. This is 2010. And duct taped to a telephone pole was Wednesday Night Fights. That's the fighting community, in LA, right?
Shout out to Alex Valle and Jimmy.
That's exactly what it was. It was Alex and Jimmy in 2010. And this was the birth of Level Up. This was the birth of Friday Night Fights, and it was at the Proud Bird, which was this vent hall right under LAX. Like, it was literally planes landing every 15 seconds. And I remember opening this door, and it was packed. It was packed, and kids were driving all the way from like Corona and Valencia for Wednesday Night Fights, and I saw community. I saw a passion for competitive gaming. I saw a passion. I saw this subculture. It was just, and it was kids. It was kids that just had such a passion, and they needed something communal, right? They needed to talk shit with each other, but also hang out with each other, right? And that's what's so interesting about the fighting community, especially in LA. New York's the same way, because I had a long experience with the fighting community in New York as well. What I love about that community is they talk so much trash, but at the end of the day, they're friends. That's the most insane thing about it. And I just started producing content around eSports, right? I got into the competition side of it. And then from there, I got a job at Machinima, where I was head of development for about 3 years. That's where I met JB for the very first time. And I launched their eSports program, which was Inside eSports. And It was good. It was good because I was the only one that knew competitive gaming. I understood. I understand community. I handpicked that staff. I found the right kids who were all shoutcasters, who were all hungry, who were all authentic. They were credible, and they all had degrees in writing. Like I was never going to find, if I ever going to do a daily show about esports and find that combo, I did, right? Wow. And we produced 110 hours original esports programming for Go 90, and then from there I got this crazy job in New York at the Microsoft flagship store to be an esports showrunner. Where now I finally got the other side of it. You know, I knew how to make shoulder programming and the content around esports, but broadcast, I was touching the broadcast, but I was never the man running it, right? And I got a crash course because we had to produce 2 events a week, esports, and that was everything from fighting games to first-person shooters to Rocket League to NFL, Madden. We had to produce all this stuff, and I got a crash course in show running, right? And then went over to MLG where I ran production for Call of Duty World League. I was in one of the executives in charge of broadcast and the shoulder programming, and I went through the season of Call of Duty World League where I really saw the machine on the MLG side, which was really pretty amazing. And then this opportunity with JB popped up, and I jumped because it was we talked about it. And, what I love about UMV is obviously the production and that side of it, right? Which I have that side, but there's this culture brand, the ULT brand, right? And there's a story there too as well, where it touches everything, right? Gaming, and I think I forgot who said it up there on the panel today, but gaming is culture now. Like, it's not gaming culture, it's culture. It's culture. Hip hop's culture. Punk music is culture. Gaming is culture, and they're all bleeding together, right? And that's where we're at right now, and that's what we were trying to do up there with these guys, was trying to help them understand that community, right? But culture, it is. It's such a, we're in such a wonderful place right now, and I'm glad that there's visionaries like us that see that, right? We actually see that, and we have to we got to lead horses to water. Like that group was like it was so funny. What was great was, like, I think he asked, or someone asked, like, we're halfway through our panel, right? And Christian, I think it was Christian, because, hey, anyone, show of hands, who's played a video game today? And I swear to God, besides us 4 on the panel, it was probably 3 people in that entire room, right? And we were like, that's an issue right there, guys. That's
shame.
Yeah, I started, the game. I started doing the Game of Thrones shame thing. I was like, shame ding, So that was the interesting part. We're hopefully coming out of that. Hopefully that this group will lean on us to help them figure out their strategy. So that's where I thought it was a really positive on the way out too. So
absolutely. One more question for you, man. Love your experience, what you've done in the space. Let's get to the deep core question behind it all. How do you create content that will be authentic, that will create an audience, and then ultimately monetize?
Well, it's the 3 things. It really, truly is. It's authenticity, obviously. It's got to come from your heart. And you got to really understand the space that you're making this content for, right? You got to understand what it is. Credibility, you got to be making sure that, you are being as core and authentic as possible. And it's got to have a level of quality, right? I know level of quality in content is so much different right now, right? You can shoot something on an iPhone, but that's still quality content, right? I think it's just having a clear vision of what you want to tell in that story, and putting it in the right place, and putting the right people and collaborating with the right people, right? Doing collaborations, exactly what we're doing right now. It's collaborating with the right voices, putting something out there, and putting in the right putting it in the right stream, right? Let's put this boat in the right stream. And I think, you never know what's going to happen, but if you do it with love and kindness, and you're doing it from your heart, and you're not trying to force something, and you're trying to do something and make something, I think that's the key right there. You just can't just go, hey, Ninja's doing that, I want to do that. No. You have. There's way more thought to it, and love and kindness. You got to do it. The universe, karma is karma, man. You got to do this right, because it'll come back and bite you in the ass.